This phone call captures something you were never supposed to hear. It started with this woman trying to find out where her husband was, but it revealed a lot more. The man being killed is Akramul Haq. Earlier that day, he had been taken by RAB, a special unit of the Bangladesh police long accused of kidnappings, torture, and murder. But this was the first time their violence was recorded on tape. DW and Netra News looked into the case with an on-the-ground investigation.
I told them to lock the door. They are trying to gather in front of the house now.
Accounts of the victims.
Every time they're like putting the gun on my head and again saying that if you have any last wish, say it, you are about to die.
And for the first time, the testimony of two RAB insiders.
Usually the trigger is pulled from a short distance.
RAB is definitely a death squad.
They claim that the crime exposed by this phone call is part of a widespread system with complicity from the highest level.
Without the approval of the Prime Minister, it is very unlikely that the Home Minister will give an order like this.
The Ministry of Home Affairs denies these allegations. So what is RAB, and why is no one stopping it? We traveled all the way to Bangladesh to investigate the accusations against RAB. This special force, made up of police and military personnel, was created in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks and during the US-led War on Terror. At the time, Bangladesh was suffering from a surge in terrorism.
With the advice of US government and also the British government, they created RAB, the Rapid Action Battalion, and they provided them training and equipment.
Today, RAB has more than 13,000 members.
Because of them, there is no more terrorism in Bangladesh.
But it's been accused of human rights violations from the start.
They
have this mindset that it takes a lot of time to prosecute someone. And sometimes people post bail and return to criminal activities. That's why they ignore the law and kill people.
We're here to shed light on these crimes. Our first lead is Hawk's murder, and the first person we want to talk to is his wife. But we don't want to be noticed. We know she's being watched. So we make our way to her house under the cloak of darkness.
We only had a room back then. The four of us used to sleep in one bed. We didn't even have enough space to pray. He loved his daughters a lot. He was very fond of them. No matter where he was, no matter how far away, if he heard that his daughters were in any sort of trouble, he would leave his meetings and come back home.
Her husband was killed in 2018, but their modest house is still filled with grief for his absence.
Of course it is painful, but my father wants us to do well, and that is what we are trying to, for his sake.
The day he was killed, a man from military intelligence kept calling him and asking to meet to discuss a land deal, his wife says. Initially, he resisted. It was Ramadan and it was late.
We trusted them because he was not involved in anything. They were not going to cause him any trouble if he met with them.
He told me, I will return, God willing. You both sleep. I'm coming.
That fateful evening, Hawk drove down this road to meet the man who was luring him into a trap. We secretly filmed the lobby of this hotel where the meeting took place. Soon after the meeting, Hawk is handed over to the execution squad. That's when his wife reached him for the last time. We don't know if he somehow managed to take her call or if it went through automatically, but the call connected. His wife recorded what happened next.
হ্যালো হ্যালো আমি কমিশনারের সাথে কথা বলতে যাচ্ছি হ্যালো কে ওইটা ফোন রিসিভ করছো ওইটা কে
This audio is direct evidence of how an operation is staged. This is essentially staged, a performance of sorts.
Stage performance.
This is one of two whistleblowers who helped us expose RAB's crimes. We spent days interviewing them, probing into their memories, cross-checking their confessions. But we can't reveal much. We questioned them separately against a bright light to conceal their face and reenacted their answers to hide their voice. All of this to protect them from RAB.
They would go any extent to punish me. It could be even extrajudicial killing.
That's why I'm hiding my face while I'm talking to you.
That's because they're the first ever to have served in RAB and speak out.
I did take part in extrajudicial killing, torture, investigations.
The things that I've seen during my time include shootouts with criminals, killings, and bribe taking.
We couldn't verify each detail of their accounts because secret operations are seemingly ordered verbally to avoid a paper trail. But their testimonies and our research helped us piece together what likely happened during the operation that took Hawk's life and identify who bore responsibility for it. His murder was not an anomaly, but a stark illustration of the systematic human rights abuses committed by RAB, a macabre performance repeated hundreds of times. The opening act centers around monitoring the victim, or rather, the target.
We don't consider the person as a person, rather a target.
We kind of forget that the person we're targeting has a life, a family, and a place in society.
সেটা কিন্তু আমরা ওই সময়ে একেবারে ভুলেই যাই বলা চলে।
We asked our source to draw an example of how an extrajudicial killing is carried out.
Consider it as a road, and this is the water body. First when it will enter and stop over here, they will put a barricade here and here to stop all kind of movements.
We use civilian vans with tinted windows.
Each of RAB's operations is unique, but they share props and procedures that also take center stage in Hawk's last phone call.
The person who was talking to him before opening fire was probably trying to keep him distracted.
তার সঙ্গে একটা কনভারসেশন চালাচ্ছিলেন।
Soft cloths or towels are typically used to avoid leaving any mark on the body.
Usually the trigger is pulled from a distance of 1 or 2 feet.
So that the muzzle flash doesn't touch the target's clothing or skin at all.
After the target has been shot, and while he's bleeding to death, the second act begins. The cover-up of the murder as a shootout.
For example, a weapon is placed in the individual's hand. Empty cartridges are scattered around the body.
Hello?
We identified 2 voices in the recording as that of men who served at RAB at the time of the murder. Their involvement directly implicates RAB in the case.
If they want to make it look like a drug-related case, they definitely plant drugs, either in his pocket or inside the bag he is carrying.
Hawk's death is shrouded in mystery. According to the police report, RAB got a tip-off about a drug deal. All the drug dealers were able to slip away, apart from one who got killed in the shootout, Akramul Hawk. But his wife rejects these allegations.
He was never involved in anything like that. He was always against drug dealers.
And the report is full of discrepancies, with a recorded phone call which it doesn't even mention. From this reconstruction, it's clear that RAB takes every measure to ensure that their crimes leave no implicating traces. But they do, because their procedures are so systematic, they create distinct patterns that reveal RAB's hand. Let's go back to this drawing. A location like this is not so easy to find. It needs to be isolated, easy to patrol, camera-free, and inspected several times.
They use those sites time and again to reduce administrative hassle and to speed up operations.
According to the whistleblowers, these are some common execution sites.
Yes, I believe like this area and this area.
This matches with what we found in Hawk's case. He was executed in one of these sites, here on the Marine Drive of the southeast coast of Bangladesh.
One day, I timed it with my watch during an operation I led.
It takes at least 20 minutes. At least 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
For 20 minutes, you hear the sound of groaning. Then slowly it stops.
According to the 2 former RAB commanders, most victims are not killed instantly, but left to bleed to death. We managed to get hold of Hawk's post-mortem report. It shows the same pattern: bullet wounds in the upper body, death due to hemorrhage. And as the final act draws to a close, rewards await the performers.
There are points allocated for each operation. At the end of the month, every battalion's points are tallied, and the one with the most points is declared the winner.
Our other whistleblower confirmed the existence of these grim competitions. They both told us that to get ahead of other teams, RAB officers try to score as many points as possible towards the end of the month. After trawling through the data of reported shootouts compiled by activists, a trend emerges. Almost half of the killings occurred in the last third of a month. This data relies on media reports and might be underreported. The phone call, our sources, and the data paint a bleak portrayal of RAB's crimes, which begs the question, why isn't anyone putting a stop to it?
not just the current Bangladesh government, but all Bangladesh governments in power during the existence of the RAB have been quiet and have never been willing to acknowledge these concerns about human rights violations within the RAB. The fact that the government has been unwilling to acknowledge that there's a problem, or even that there needs to be an investigation, that to me suggests that the government has something to hide.
And the government in Bangladesh means Sheikh Hasina. She's the head of the Awami League and for the last 14 years, the prime minister. Under her rule, RAB has been accused not only of staged shootouts, but also more covert operations such as abductions and torture. The Ministry of Home Affairs told us that according to their investigations, the allegation made appears not to be authentic. Back in the capital Dhaka, we are meeting someone who blames the government for RAB's crimes.
RAB picked up my brother and 10 years he's missing.
This is Sanjida Islam Tuli, the spokesperson of an association of families whose fathers, brothers, and husbands were taken by RAB. It's called Maya Dak, Mother's Call.
I was the younger one. Anywhere I'm going, he used to hold my hand. You know, I couldn't do that. Kills me that I couldn't do anything. I still couldn't find him. What is happening with him? So I will, till my last breath, whatever happens, I'll fight for that.
They often meet and hold rallies, determined to pressure the government to act.
They are using law enforcement agencies, RAB, and the detective branch of the police to harass these families.
আজকে 8 বছর ধরে আমার বাবা নিখোঁজ। আমি আমার বাবাকে একবারও দেখিনি। রাস্তায় রাস্তায় করাইতে হয়। শেখ হাসিনা আন্টির কাছে কতবার বলছি, কিন্তু শেখ হাসিনা আন্টি আমাকে কিছুই আমাদের বলে না।
Just like Sanjida's brother, many of those abducted were local activists for BNP, Bangladesh's main opposition party, and were picked up in the run-up to the 2014 and 2018 elections. This seems to align with what the whistleblowers claim. RAB acts on government orders.
The engagement decision for any political target would come at the very least from the Ministry of Home Affairs.
You had to get clearance from the Home Ministry before doing a shootout.
If the Home Minister gave such an order, it is highly unlikely that the Prime Minister of Bangladesh didn't know about it.
They also carry a somber message.
This interview is a message for those who are waiting for their beloved ones to return. If they have been gone for a year or two, then the chance that they will return alive is 1%, less than 1%.
The Ministry of Home Affairs dismissed the allegations of political involvement as mala fide and politically motivated. We had to cut our meeting with Sanjida Islam short.
This store, they were standing on this store, that 2%. পুলিশের গাড়িটা ভাইয়া এই রাস্তাটার মাথায়।
Several men, some in uniform, were approaching her house. We left with a different car to divert their attention.
And then I told them to lock the door. They are trying to gather, I think, in front of the house.
We don't know if we had been followed or not, but it wouldn't be anything unusual for Sanjida, just a taste of the continuous harassment she and her friends are facing. These families live hoping to see their loved ones again, not knowing what happens after RAB knocks at your door. But we also talked with someone who knows it very well.
That night I cannot forget it, like that knock on my door, that opening the handle and getting punched on the face. I cannot forget this kind of thing.
This is Nafis Mohammed Alam. He was arrested on November 3rd, 2021, as this news report shows. He was accused of illegally selling alcohol, a controlled substance in Bangladesh. We filmed the building where he says he was taken after his arrest.
So this is the front view of the RAB headquarters. So in the first ground floor, in the right corner, there is a torture cell. This is the entry of this cell. Once you enter it, this is an open space. There is a chair and there is a hook to hang you up. I was getting horrified, like what kind of place is this? And like when I was taken to the cells, I could saw that this is a very well organized and managed torture room. Like there, all the handcuffs are hanging in the wall. There are lots of like baseball bat and lots of things to beat people up. Lots of things that you could see in movies that are used to torture people.
There is a hidden sound system in every room.
Hidden sound system.
These sounds are also used to create psychological trauma.
We identified one of the sounds played in the cells. For the next 36 hours, Alam says he was tortured, and tortured by one person specifically.
Major Navid Kaiser.
Navid Kaiser is considered one of RAB's torturers. We confronted him with the allegations, but he did not respond.
Navid Kaiser is a bit arrogant. I'm not aware of anyone who has a good relationship with him.
Alam says that his torturer asked the journalists not to film his face, but with this screenshot, we identified him. Up there in the corner. That proves that he was there.
Another thing is they also had a PlayStation in that room and a TV. So when I was getting beaten, Navid Kaiser was playing Just Cause 3 on the PlayStation. He instructed them to put the hook on my leg, in the handcuff of my leg, and Navid Kaiser pressed a switch and the hook was like pulling me up.
He says he was beaten and given electric shocks. But his life was spared. RAB filed charges against him and handed him over to the police. He was imprisoned, still bearing the wounds of torture, unsure of what lay ahead, when on December 10th, 2021, at the stroke of 7 p.m., unexpected news brightened his day.
The US has announced new sanctions against a dozen officials of foreign governments for their alleged roles in human rights abuse.
Sanctions against dozens of people and entities tied to China, Bangladesh.
Against individuals associated with the police force in Bangladesh accused of extrajudicial killings.
You have no idea, like people in the jail and the prisoners were like shouting with joy. They were like beating the plates, steel plates with each other. The floors were getting like shouts of joy. Like everyone out there was so happy.
Despite providing it with training and equipment for many years, the U.S. had imposed sanctions on RAB for their involvement in a gross violation of human rights, namely the extrajudicial killing of Akramul Haq. The effect was remarkable. Almost immediately, the number of killings went down. What's more, many Bangladeshis welcomed them as the first sign of a long-awaited reckoning for a force that has wielded power with near impunity.
And even though you cannot say anything against them in Bangladesh, the other countries in the world are like, they are concerned that these things are going on.
It was really a light at the end of the tunnel for us.
But impunity remains pervasive. For as important as the sanctions were, they only targeted 7 high-ranking officials by name. Countless others got away with literally murder, abductions, and torture. Remember this face? Navid Kaiser, one of RAB's alleged torturers, was not included in the sanctions list. In fact, he was given extra responsibilities. Those we identified who were present at Hawk's murder were also not on the list. And the man who lured him into the trap was even awarded a lucrative posting as a UN peacekeeper.
As far as I know, everyone has gone on a peacekeeping mission after serving in RAB.
And even though the number of killings went down after the sanctions, RAB is still committing crimes. With general elections scheduled to take place by early next year, they could become even more dangerous.
Before any national election, the human rights situation in Bangladesh deteriorates. From our experience of the last 3, especially the last 2 elections, there are enough reasons to believe that those in power will try to stay in power by any means.
RAB was created in big part to fight terrorism, but it's now itself terrorizing many in Bangladesh.
These types of entities, unfortunately, tend to be hardwired for the use of violence, in great part because they do enjoy impunity.
Evidence suggests not only that RAB uses its special powers and tools to circumvent the court system and commit crimes, but also that the force itself is used as a political tool.
I'm blaming government for utilizing them in a wrong way, for utilizing them to kill general people of Bangladesh, to abduct and torture them, to maintain their power.
While these accusations are not new, our investigation and the unprecedented testimony of 2 RAB insiders make them harder to ignore.
That is what makes these so important. The fact that these testimonies come from the inside, from those that know exactly what has been going on the inside, there's going to be a lot more questions now.
And one question in particular: what could be done to put an end to RAB's crimes?
Everyone who is responsible needs to be identified and be placed on the sanctions list. If it means targeting the highest level of the state, it needs to be done too.
They should be eliminated. There should not be any such kind of organization in a country like Bangladesh.